Hello, my strong friends. First of all, I chopped off all of my hair. I love it so far. Hopefully I don't get tired of it. But we're trying out a new format. So before you see the new format, I wanted to just say hello. Hopefully you're having a great start to the holiday season. And I hope you enjoy this video about equipment. And there are a ton of products in here. I'll try to link everything down below and more, so you sort of have a guide on what to buy. Maybe what to skip, but what to buy. Hopefully you enjoy it. Bye.
Let's start this video off by answering a very simple question. Do you need equipment? Nah, probably not. Especially if you're just lifting for fun and you want to keep things simple. However, it's likely if you're watching my channel,
Hello, my strong friends.
you do have some interest in getting the most out of your training sessions. You're probably getting strong, and the truth is there are a few things that you can add to your gym bag that can give you a little bit of an edge. Some can help with technique, some can help you lift more weight, and then there are those things that just help you feel better while you're under the bar. And let's be honest, who doesn't want to feel better under the bar? Keep in mind, there are going to be caveats with everything I mentioned in this video, and I'll cover some of the most popular items that top lifters always have in their gym bag. I'm gonna add prices for everything and suggestions on where to buy them. I'll also give you some insight on how to best use each piece. So let's just get into the video. I do have a company called Strong Supply, and you'll see a lot of the products we do offer on that website. In my opinion, we're the best bang for your buck, but I'm gonna add some other options and other places that you can look to get similar items as well. For our first section, one of the most common questions I get asked are, when should I start using a lifting belt? So if you're watching weightlifting or powerlifting or following people who compete in those sports on Instagram or YouTube, you'll likely see them wearing a belt when they're squatting, deadlifting, cleaning, or even for things that strongmen do like heavy carries.
Megan Gallagher.
Belts can increase your performance by adding more rigidity to the torso while lifting a heavy load. When are you ready to actually wear a belt and spend some cash on one? That is actually easily answered. That is when you've understood how to properly brace and breathe for heavy attempts. Without those techniques mastered, or at least an understanding of how to practice it, a belt really won't help you at all. So save your money if you don't have that one down. In short, a belt can assist the lifter in creating intra-abdominal pressure to add to stabilization of the spine.
Feel that? Yes.
You can achieve strong IAP, intra-abdominal pressure, and some spine stabilization without a belt, but a belt will provide even more rigidity and even some physical feedback to help brace and breathe properly. There are two general styles of lifting belts that I want to cover in this video. The first one is a VELCRO and nylon option, and it's supportive without being too bulky. So this design allows for some flexibility in weightlifting movements. It's generally affordable and easy to travel with compared to the rigid leather powerlifting style belts we'll talk about next. I'd go with this style if you're buying your first ever belt. This is kind of the general starter belt. And if you're training for just general fitness, this would probably be a better option. Of course, if you're doing weightlifting or CrossFit, this belt is where you want to go. You want to avoid the next one that I'm about to talk about. Now, this second style to cover is more rigid. It's a heavier duty option, and this is usually what you see powerlifters opting for. They're typically made of thick leather and suede, and they do range in thickness. So common thickness for belts in this style are between 10 and 13 millimeter belts, but you can find like all kinds of different thicknesses depending on what you want from different retailers out there. And you can also find these designs with a lever option. A lot of lifters like the lever because it's easier to put on over a prong. I actually prefer the prong because I bloat a lot throughout the month. And in order to change the location of your lever on a lever belt, you usually need a tool, something like a screwdriver. It's not that hard, but inconvenient enough for me. Also, I'm just kind of old school, and my dad got me this double prong belt about 6 years ago for my birthday, so I never looked back. I just used this one and kind of committed to it. These belts will probably last you a lifetime, so once you find one that you like, you most likely won't need to buy another one. I mean, maybe in like 20 years you might, but they're pretty bulky and they're hard to travel with, so leave some room in your gym bag for it and keep that in mind if you're taking it to and from the gym all the time. You really do need to have a somewhat advanced perspective on what to expect when you're using a belt like this. You want the belt to fit tight enough, but not too tight, and you want it to enhance the intra-abdominal pressure and stabilization that you're already creating. You don't want to just slap this on because it will make your torso rigid, because then you just won't be using it and you're only training yourself to get weaker.
Big pull it. Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
If you are someone who eventually plans on competing in powerlifting, keep in mind that some federations, or really just like USAPL and IPF, they require that all lifters only wear equipment that are from approved brands. Apparently, it's a ridiculous price to get IPF approved, and in 2018, Mark Bell paid a fee of $253,000 for a 4-year IPF contract in order to get his gear approved. So this includes a ton of his different products. So if you're planning on competing in IPF or USAPL or federations that require approval, then I would definitely check out Mark Bell's brand, Slingshot. They have a lot of great options. It's also a US company compared to its biggest competitor, SBD. And I just think they have more interesting styles and more interesting marketing, in my opinion. However, if you're a general fitness enthusiast and you're not interested in competing, or you want to try just lower price items while you're learning about things and trying new things, then I would check out my brand. Strong Supply now has every piece of equipment that will be listed in this video, which is new to us. We just added a few new products. Unfortunately, we are a bit of a smaller brand and we're not in a position to pay those IPF approved fees, but that's okay with us. I'm happy to recommend Slingshot and Mark Bell's brand. If you're looking to compete, yeah, maybe one day we can add that, but we just added heavy duty powerlifting belts, whereas the Cali belt, the VELCRO and nylon option we've had for years now. And it is an amazing belt. So I sometimes will train with a VELCRO and nylon belt, even when I'm powerlifting, just in the off season, to kind of give myself a break from depending on such a heavy duty belt. And also, it's just easier to travel with. All right, there are a couple different options when it comes to knee support. Knee support in general, they're worn for support and comfort. They're not worn for injury prevention. So many lifters like knee support because of the compression. It warms the skin and the area around and on the knee. So I don't think there needs to be a huge barrier to entry here. I don't think you need to be a super advanced lifter, whereas you do need to know some technique, basic technique to use a belt. Keep in mind, knee support, knee sleeves, or any kind of knee wraps, they're not for injury prevention. So I'd recommend to lean on them for some support, for comfortability in the squat, and they can be appropriate for any level. Just always continue to prioritize your form. So let's start with sleeves. These can be used by powerlifters, weightlifters, general gym goers, whoever you are. Typically, lifters will wear them for any movement that involves flexion of the knee, things like squats, lunges, weightlifting movements like the snatch and clean and jerk, and etc. Sleeves provide more comfort during training sessions because they add compression to and around the knee joint, like I mentioned. That compression helps increase blood flow, and it may reduce pain and swelling during and after a workout. However, if you're experiencing a lot of pain and swelling during and after a workout, I'd re-examine your form and your training programs to kind of address those issues and not just throw knee sleeves on as a band-aid solution. I personally have struggled with knee pain, especially over the past year, and a lot of my issues were addressed when I finally saw a physiotherapist. So if you're able to do something like that, then I'd save your money for knee sleeves and invest in a longer term and better solution. Powerlifters will often purchase a knee sleeve that's a size or two smaller to help provide a bit of rebound in their squat. It doesn't provide a ton of extra pounds, but it can definitely achieve a little more explosive energy when you're coming out of the hole. If you're not powerlifting, then of course, buy a knee sleeve in the correct size, and I wouldn't spend too much money on them. Personally, I think the SBD knee sleeves are so ridiculously overpriced and they have so little variation in style or fit that unless you're on the platform, then I'd look for more affordable or at least more stylish options. Now, keep in mind, while I'm saying that, I do wear SBDs when I'm competing in powerlifting, but I keep a pair only for competition, and then I train in different knee sleeves throughout the year. If you're not a weightlifter, then you may have never heard of Cali rolls or seen a product really like it, but I sometimes prefer Cali rolls as knee support over the other options.
I like to wrap down up as I go, so I'll hold the start in place with my thumb. And as I come around, I can tuck that in to the material so it holds itself in place. I'll overlap by about an inch. And then once you come to the end, you'll stick your fingers underneath that last time around, pull it through, and there you go, nice and secure.
So first of all, you can wash them in the washer, which is great because have you ever smelled your stank ass knee sleeves? Because they're disgusting. Most likely, most people have never really washed them or washed them once in a blue moon. So Cali rolls provide similar support to knee sleeves, but instead of the compression being somewhat equal throughout the piece of equipment, the lifter can choose to wrap tightly or focus more of the wrap on areas that they prefer there to be more compression. We've even seen Cali rolls be used under or over knee sleeves for people who want extra support in competition. And the last option are knee wraps. These are only really recommended for geared lifters or really advanced lifters who just want to try them.
Oh, fuck. Ow!
Yeah, that's right. It's not gonna
Ow!
Embrace it, dude. Embrace it.
Oh my, that looks really good. Ow!
They can add a ton of weight to your squats, but they're not recommended for general fitness. We have seen weightlifters use knee wraps in competition, but it's definitely not as common as knee sleeves or Cali rolls. Lifting straps can be used to help during training sessions for any movement where your grip is holding you back before your muscles are. You usually see them being used on deadlifts, heavy rows, heavy pulls, or snatches. Now, straps are not allowed in competition unless you're competing in strongman, I believe. Before you start using lifting straps, I'd probably make sure you've been training for at least a year on a dedicated strength progression so you don't miss out on grip and forearm gains that will be very important and contribute to your overall strength levels. The goal is to always have an established base of strength training and then get to the point where you've run your linear progression and you can now be considered an intermediate lifter. After that point, I'd only incorporate straps for when you truly need them. For singles on any movement, don't use straps at all. If you happen to encounter a heavy pull day where, let's say, you have multiple sets at multiple reps, I'm thinking like sets over 5, reps over 5, then I'd consider using straps when your hands begin to fatigue. You want to train grip regularly, but use straps only when you need to. I guess here I'll also add chalk is an important tool that all lifters should be using. Chalk will help prevent any rips on your hands, and it'll also increase the friction that you have on the bar so that the bar doesn't slip out. It's really important to use chalk for safety of the lifter. You can always get chalk. I mean, most gyms will have them if you're powerlifting, but you can always get liquid chalk that you can throw in your gym bag if you need. It's a little less messy than regular chalk. Usually liquid chalk is just magnesium and alcohol that comes in liquid form and then dries on your hands. All right, next let's talk about wrist support. So wrist wraps can help support the wrist joint as well as keep the wrist stacked under the barbell. We most frequently see wrist wraps being used in pressing, benching, and squatting. There are 2 different styles of wrist wraps that I want to cover. The first are stiff wrist wraps that basically act as a cast to help keep your wrist in position. Usually they're used by powerlifters or heavy benchers. They usually consist of like really thick material, but they have some rubber elasticity that helps control the tension during the wrap. This kind of wrist wrap helps avoid any bend of the wrist joint, which of course can negatively impact your performance and negatively impact your bench. If you're wearing these correctly, they'll be uncomfortable and they'll provide basically no mobility for the joint, and you'll likely cut off some circulation when you're wearing, so make sure to unwrap them after every set. They shouldn't be a piece of equipment that you're able to wear for your entire training session, and they're also not intended to be worn like bracelets, so ensure that you have some insight on how to properly put them on. Wrist wraps don't actually help you lift the weight like super tight knee sleeves might. For beginners, a wrist wrap might actually help you understand how to stack your wrist under the barbell and over the elbow, and most beginners won't need them. To be honest, there are a lot of powerlifters who don't use them ever, not even in competition. So keep that in mind while you're shopping, and if you have a budget for how many things you really want to add to your gym bag. So there is a second option. This option is often used by weightlifters, and typically they're kind of similar to like a boxing wrap. They're a non-stretch cotton web that offers light support, but still some flexibility for the snatch and clean and jerk. These mostly just add some compression around the wrist joint instead of acting like a cast for the wrist, like that powerlifting style we talked about. You'll actually want to wear these ones more like bracelets since weightlifters will need full wrist mobility. All right, the next section is shoes. The biggest concern when it comes to shoes is that you don't want to be lifting in really cushy running shoes or trainers that have a sole that's like created to absorb force. Instead, you want a flat-soled shoe that doesn't have a lot of cushion. So something like Chuck Taylor's or CrossFit shoes, those are some of my favorites. Some people even like to train barefoot. That's actually super popular. Another option is Olympic weightlifting shoes. They offer an elevated heel with a flat sole.
Hey, give me those. Just kidding. You like wearing these shoes?
They can help in movements like squats and weightlifting movements. You can achieve your depth a little more easily in shoes like this. They're generally pretty expensive, so if you don't have them, you can always try squatting with like small plates on your heels to elevate your heels a little bit. These shoes definitely aren't needed for deadlifts, but some lifters do use them for bench since they sort of give you the feel that your like feet are really glued into the ground. And since a lot of new people are again being kicked out of their public gym spaces, I just wanted to share a couple of resources or things that you can still add to your gym bag so that you're not using all of the shared equipment in a gym. I'd recommend adding a few resistance bands. They can be a helpful tool to have at your house or always keep with you. They're usually made of latex and they just use elasticity for resistance, and you can use them in an array of different movements. Usually they come in long band options or mini band options so that you can use them for all kinds of things. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you learned a little bit about what equipment you may want to consider. Again, keep in mind, none of this stuff is necessary. There are so many super strong people who lift with no equipment at all, and they're amazing. There are many people who lift barefoot. They're awesome. Your gym might not allow you to do that, but just keep in mind, like, simple is usually best, but there are things that might help you feel a little bit better, feel a little bit more confident, and are just fun to experiment with, especially if you have the budget to do so, or you want to add some of these things to your Christmas list. Again, if you're looking for affordable equipment, check out strongsupply.com. We have just added knee sleeves, a lever belt, and a prong heavy-duty powerlifting belt, and they're all awesome. Check out all the things that we have at strongsupply.com. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.